Stadium is 10,077 seats. Filipino community, boom, it was sold out on Wednesday night.
5,000. That is how many ticket requests came in for one tennis match in Toronto last week. A second round match, a Wednesday night. A player seated 25th, and the court she was scheduled on holds 2,800 people. 5,000 requests. 2,800 seats. You have probably seen this told as a heartwarming story. A young player cries, a community shows up, a Canadian broadcaster writes something sweet, everybody shares it, everybody moves on, and underneath the sweetness sits the consensus, the take you will find in every comment section. The flag sold those tickets, not the tennis. Nice moment. Overhyped player. Here is my problem with that reading. Heartwarming stories do not make tournament directors in other cities start calling each other. Sweet moments do not force a 20-year veteran executive to admit on national television that his own model just failed. What happened in Toronto was not a fan story. It was a stress test. My case in this video is simple to state and hard to dismiss. Last week, for the first time in the 2 decades Karl Hale has run the National Bank Open, ticket demand detached itself completely from ranking. The system that decides who plays in which stadium returned a wrong answer in public with receipts, and the player at the center of it. 21-year-old Eala of the Philippines then walked out and removed the only excuse the skeptics had left. I am going to show you 3 things. First, the plain one. How a routine Wednesday match turned into a genuine scheduling emergency hour by hour. Second, and this is the one I have not heard anybody say out loud, that the demand arrived before the winning did, months before, which quietly destroys the bandwagon theory in both directions. I will show you exactly what I mean.
The Eala effect has hit Toronto.
Of course, Filipino! Come on, let's go, Alex.
Ready to cheer on rising Filipino tennis star Alycia Eala at the National Bank Open, the country's biggest tennis tournament.
Of course, the story of the day is watching Alycia play. I'm Filipino, and we cherish her a lot.
But not yet. And third, one sentence buried halfway through a CBC article that a reporter with 15 years in North American newsrooms probably never expected to write. I think that sentence matters more than the sellout itself. Hold it. It comes late and it earns its place. And because I do not sell clean stories on this channel, the case against her gets its full hearing before we finish. It starts with a real result, not an opinion. In January at the Australian Open, Alycia Parks beat Eala in straight sets. In the first round, with Eala's crowd already in the building. The overhyped argument has evidence. We will look at it honestly. But first, rebuild the week because the sequence matters. August 3rd, Washington, D.C. Eala walks onto a hard court against the world number 4, Jessica Pegula, in the final of the Mubadala DC Open, a WTA 500 event. She loses the first set 4-6. She takes the second 6-4. And then she wins the third 6-love, a bagel set against a top 5 player in a final. That match gives her the first WTA singles title ever won by a player from the Philippines. 2 days later, she is in Toronto, ranked number 20 in the world, a career high, the first Filipino ever inside the top 20. August 5th, a Filipino-Canadian journalist named Chris Reyes files a story for CBC's national platform. By the time it publishes, the situation on the ground has already outrun it. Wednesday night, Eala plays her second round match. Not on the court she was originally assigned. On center court, Sobeys Stadium. 10,077 seats, sold out. And here is the detail I need you to sit with, because it is the foundation of everything else in this video. It did not sell out over a week of promotion. It did not sell out in a day. It sold out in 30 minutes. To understand why that broke something, you need to see the machine it broke. The professional tennis tour prices attention by ranking. That is the quiet assumption underneath every schedule ever printed.
Some fans showed up to watch her practice Wednesday, days after Eala won her first title on the WTA Tour in Washington. Now she's selling out tournaments, surprising organizers and prompting them to add a Filipino dish to the menu.
We've never really seen it before this early in the tournament, where a player has so much enthusiasm, especially from a community. Usually it's hundreds of fans or a couple hundred fans. This is thousands of fans coming out.
They greeted her this week as she arrived at the stadium.
Think of it like airline overbooking software. Decades of data, tuned to the seat, almost never wrong. Top 10 players fill stadiums. Top 5 players sell them out. Everybody else fills the middle rooms. So when Eala's match was announced, the tournament did the textbook thing. 25th seed, second round, Wednesday night, grandstand court, 2,800 seats. That was the correct call by every rule the sport has ever used. And if you want to follow what happens when the rules stop working, subscribe, because I am going to be auditing this claim all season. Then watch what the ticket requests did next. They climbed past 5,000. 5,000. For a room that holds 2,800. The software was not slightly off. It was off by nearly double. So Karl Hale, a man who has personally scheduled Serena Williams, Naomi Osaka, Iga Swiatek, Aryna Sabalenka, and Coco Gauff, made a decision he says he had never made for a player ranked outside the top 5. He moved a 25th seed onto the main showcase court of one of the most prestigious tournaments outside the 4 Grand Slams. 30 minutes later, there was not a seat left in the building. So that is the theory of a scheduling emergency. Now let me show you the evidence that says it is bigger than one night.
It's nice to see, that the Filipino community is really showing up and they're enjoying tennis and hopefully it will help grow the sport as well.
So many people have come to this tournament specifically for Eala, but some in the tennis world aren't surprised by the hype at all. One Canadian Olympian says not only is Eala great on the court, but she's relatable off it too.
Argument 1 is the executive proof, and the language is not mine, it is his. Hale told CBC on the record that he had never seen a player ranked outside the top 5 have this type of effect, and that her fans were specifically waiting to see when she played. Then he said the bigger thing, that all the tournament directors are talking about it, that everybody in the industry is talking about it. Notice what that sentence actually is. Tournament directors are the least sentimental people in the sport. They do not fill a 10,000 seat stadium on hope. They fill it on data. When a man whose entire job is to be unsentimental tells a national broadcaster that his industry is discussing one second-round match, that is not promotion. That is an incident report. In a separate interview with ABS-CBN, he went further, calling Eala an absolute blessing to the sport, describing a Filipino community out in droves and an atmosphere reporters at the ground compared to a football match rather than a tennis match. And the conversation had already escaped the operations world. In late July, Andy Roddick, the former U.S. #1 and 2003 U.S. Open champion, spent a full segment of his podcast on what he called Elamania, watch parties in arenas across an entire country for a 4th-round match, and landed on 4 words: this is a movement. Sit with his vocabulary. Movements are cultural events. That is a Grand Slam champion, 25 years deep in this sport, reclassifying what he is looking at, and that is a good argument.
You have a lot of the ingredients, so to say, to be successful on the tour, and really she has it all. I mean, she got this charisma, this off the court that absolutely everybody loves.
Eala is already inspiring the next generation of players. Yeah! Like 7-year-old Noah Batista Cruz.
To me, she's the best player ever.
It is also the easy argument. It is the argument every commentator will make this week. It is true and it is shallow. And if that were all I had for you, I would not have made this video. Because a sellout on its own has a dozen boring explanations. Novelty, marketing, a lucky news cycle. If you want to know whether Toronto was a fluke or a signal, you cannot look at Toronto at all. You have to look at January. Go back 7 months. Australian Open, Melbourne. Eala is ranked number 49 in the world. She has never won a WTA title. There is no trophy, no career high, no headline week. None of the things the bandwagon theory says a crowd requires. And fans lined up for hours to watch her play a first-round match. Then she lost. Straight sets to Alycia Parks, an American who afterward acknowledged the crowd had been difficult to play in front of. Now hold that sequence in your head, because it cuts in 2 directions at once. Direction 1, the demand existed before the results did. Nobody was jumping on a bandwagon in Melbourne because in January there was no bandwagon to jump on. The crowd was not purchased by a title run. It predates the title run. Direction 2, and this is the part that should worry the skeptics more. If the crowd was already showing up in January, then the crowd cannot explain what changed by August. The variable that changed is the tennis. Number 49 to number 20 in 7 months. A first WTA final. A win over a former US Open champion in Naomi Osaka. A win over the Canadian home favorite Leylah Fernandez, a first title in Washington. The consensus says the flag is doing the work and the player is along for the ride. Melbourne says the opposite. The support was the constant. The player is the thing that moved.
Go Alex, go Team Philippines! Bringing together sports lovers and a community too. Xian Deschanel, CBC News, Toronto.
That is my flagship claim in this video, and I will be honest with you. I have gone back and forth on whether I am reading a January loss too generously. So tell me in the comments, was Melbourne the real beginning of this story, or am I building too much on a defeat? I can argue it both ways, and I genuinely want to know where you land. Now stack the evidence in order of strength. 1. The pattern repeats across cities. Melbourne in January, cues for a player ranked 49. Washington in early August, a title run through the top of the draw. Toronto days later, 5,000 requests and a 30-minute sellout. 3 cities, 3 months, 1 identical behavior. A single sellout is a moment. A repeated one is a system. 2, the tennis itself, because a movement without wins evaporates, and the wins are there. Wednesday night, in front of the largest crowd of her career, Eala faced Alycia Parks. The same Parks from Melbourne. Same opponent, different room. First set, 6-1. Parks pushed back and took the second, 6-4. Deciding set, Eala broke in the 5th game and closed it 6-2. 1 hour and 51 minutes. 14 break points generated, 14 knocks on the door, and the door only has to open a few times. With that win, she became the first Filipino player, male or female, ever to win a main draw match at the National Bank Open. The WTA's own recap adds the trend lines. 6 consecutive match wins, 10 straight victories when she takes the first set, 17 career wins at the WTA 1000 level. Every number describing her form points the same direction. 3, and this is the tier nobody mentions, the demographics underneath the demand. According to statistics, Canada's 2021 study, Filipinos are 2.6% of the national population and the 4th largest racialized group in the country, with more than 280,000 Filipino Canadians counted in the Toronto area as far back as the 2016 census. And behind them, a nation of roughly 100 million people that before Eala had never produced a single top 100 WTA singles player. 100 million people. 0 representation. That is not a fan base. That is a pressurized reservoir. And Toronto is what it looks like when a valve finally opens. Which brings me to the sentence I held back. Halfway through her CBC article, Chris Reyes stepped out of reporter mode. 15 years in North American newsrooms, and she admitted inside her own copy that she cheers. Not out loud in the press box, but quietly. In a passage she slipped into her own reporting. She wrote that there is a specific thrill in hearing the Tagalog word laban, the word for fight, shouted from the stands of an international tennis tournament. Read that again. A word from a family kitchen, ringing through a 10,000-seat Canadian stadium, filed on a national broadcaster's platform by a reporter who could not fully keep herself outside the story. Attendance figures measure a crowd. That paragraph measures what the crowd means, and no scheduling software on earth has a column for it. Now the case against, delivered properly with its strongest numbers. Parks beat Eala in straight sets in January with that same crowd behind her. Proof in ink that support does not win matches. Crowds are not rankings. Number 20 is not number 5. A sold-out Wednesday does not survive a losing streak. Her next opponent, the American Caddy McNally, just eliminated Linda Noskova in straight sets, so the draw is not getting softer. And 7 months of brilliant form is still only 7 months. Careers are not built in one hot summer. All of that is true, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. So here is my precision statement. Toronto did not prove that Alex Eala is a superstar, and it did not flip the overhyped debate. It narrowed it. It proved one specific measurable thing, that demand detached from ranking, 5,000 requests, a center court upgrade, 30 minutes to 0 seats, and that the player at the center of it answered with a title in Washington and a revenge win in Toronto. Zoom out and the stakes get bigger than her. The tour has always mapped its growth by geography. A stop in one country, a stop in the next. Toronto is a proof of concept for a different map, drawn along diaspora lines, where the audience travels with the player instead of waiting for the tour to arrive. If that map is real, the calendar logic changes for everyone who comes after her. So here is my falsifiable prediction, and you are invited to hold me to it. Across her next 3 tournaments, Eala gets scheduled above her seating line. Bigger courts, better slots than a ranking of 20 is supposed to earn. If the directors quietly go back to the old model, I am wrong, and I will say so here. She plays her 3rd round match Friday, August 7th against McNally, and I will be covering it. Subscribe if you want the audit, because this arc is only starting. Which leaves one question, and it is yours. When the model and the player disagree, which one do you trust? The software that has been right for 20 years, or the 21-year-old who just broke it in 30 minutes?